I knew something was wrong the moment she said it. It was Christmas morning. The house smelled like pine and sugar. Red lights blinked on the tree. Soft music played from the radio. My grandson sat on the floor, tearing wrapping paper and laughing. For a moment, everything looked perfect. Then, my daughter-in-law walked in with a tray of coffee cups. She moved slowly, too slowly, like she was thinking about every step. Her smile was wide, but it did not reach her eyes. She handed one cup to my son, one to herself, and then she stopped in front of me. She leaned close and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Drink this coffee. I added a secret ingredient that I made." The room went quiet for half a second. I laughed softly, trying not to look nervous. "A secret ingredient?" I asked. "Yes," she said, still smiling. "Special for Christmas." I took the cup. It felt warm in my hands. Too warm. The smell was strong, bitter, and sharp. Not like the coffee we usually drank. She watched my face closely. Her fingers shook just a little. My heart began to beat fast. For months, I had felt like I did not belong in this house. Doors locked at night. Plates moved away from me. Food served last. Words spoken softly when I entered the room. I told myself I was old and imagining things. But this coffee felt different. My daughter-in-law turned her back to me to help my son with something on the table. Just for a moment. That was when I made my choice. My hands moved before my mind could stop them. Slowly, calmly, I switched my cup with the one she had placed near herself. The cups looked the same. No one noticed. The music played. My grandson laughed again. I held my breath. She turned back, picked up the cup without looking, and took a small sip. I did not drink mine. We all sat down together. She talked about Christmas plans. She laughed too loudly. She took another sip of the coffee. I watched her face. Every movement, every breath. I felt fear, yes, but also sadness. This was my son's wife. This was my home. Christmas was supposed to be a day of love. My grandson climbed onto my lap and hugged me. "Grandpa, you didn't drink," he said. "I will," I told him softly. Later. Time moved slowly after that. Minutes felt like hours. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. My son talked about work. The tree lights blinked on and off. My daughter-in-law kept drinking. I sat there, quiet, with the cup still full in my hands, praying I was wrong, praying that this was all just a bad thought in an old man's head. But deep inside, I knew Christmas morning had already changed. About 1 hour passed. At first, nothing happened. My daughter-in-law kept talking, walking around the house, cleaning plates that were already clean. She laughed at small things that were not funny. I noticed she drank water again and again, like her mouth was dry. I stayed quiet. Then she stopped walking. She held the edge of the table and closed her eyes, just for a second. When she opened them, her smile was gone. "Are you okay?" my son asked. "Yes," she said quickly. Too quickly. "I'm fine." But she was not fine. Her hands began to shake. Not just a little now. Her face lost its color. She sat down slowly, breathing hard, like she had just run a long way. My heart dropped into my chest. The room felt cold. "I feel dizzy," she whispered. My grandson looked up from his toys. "Mom?" he asked. She tried to stand again, but sat back down. Her legs did not listen to her. She pressed her hand to her stomach and frowned. My son rushed to her side. "What's wrong? Did you eat something bad?" She shook her head. "No, just tired." I looked at the coffee cup on the table. Empty. No one noticed me staring. Minutes passed. Her breathing became uneven. She wiped sweat from her forehead even though the room was cool. Her voice became weak and her words came out slow. "I don't feel good," she said again, louder this time. My son's face changed. Fear replaced confusion. He brought her water, but she pushed it away. The glass slipped from her hand and spilled on the floor. That was when everyone understood something was wrong. My grandson moved closer to me and held my arm. "Grandpa, is Mom sick?" he asked quietly. I swallowed hard. "She just needs help," I said. Inside, my chest felt tight. I remembered other mornings, breakfast left untouched, tea that smelled strange, her eyes watching me, waiting. I remembered how she once said, "Old people are so fragile," and laughed. I looked down at my own coffee cup, still full. Guilt washed over me like a heavy wave. My hand shook now, too. What if I was wrong? What if the coffee was only meant to make her feel sleepy? What if I had made a terrible mistake? But deep down, another thought spoke louder. If I had not switched the cups, I would be the one sitting there now. My son helped her lie down on the couch. He called her name again and again. She answered, but her voice was weak, almost empty. The Christmas music was turned off. The lights on the tree kept blinking, bright and happy, like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I sat very still, holding my grandson close, watching the woman on the couch breathe slowly, and I knew the truth was getting closer, whether I was ready for it or not. The house no longer felt like a home. The air was heavy and quiet, broken only by the sound of her breathing, slow, uneven. My son knelt beside the couch, calling his wife's name again and again. She answered sometimes, but her eyes did not focus on him. They moved around the room like she was lost. I stayed where I was, sitting straight, my hands folded. My grandson pressed against my side. I could feel his small heart beating fast. "I'm going to call for help," my son said, his voice shaking. "No," she said suddenly. We all froze. She tried to sit up, but failed. Her head fell back onto the pillow. Her face was wet with sweat now, her skin pale like paper. "No doctors," she whispered. "I just need rest." My son looked confused. "You can't even stand," he said. "Why don't you want help?" She did not answer right away. Her eyes moved slowly, then stopped on me, just on me. For a long moment, we stared at each other. Something passed between us. Fear, anger, regret. "I told you not to touch things," she said weakly. My son frowned. "What do you mean?" She closed her eyes, breathing hard. "Nothing." But the words stayed in the room. I felt my chest tighten. My grandson looked up at me. "Grandpa," he whispered. I pulled him closer. My son stood up and walked toward the kitchen. "Did you eat something different?" he asked. "Something unusual?" She laughed softly. It sounded broken. "Different?" she said. "Yes, very different." My son turned back to her. "What are you talking about?" She tried to wave her hand, but it fell back onto the couch. "It was just coffee." My heart jumped. "Coffee?" my son repeated. She opened her eyes again and looked straight at him. "Special coffee," she said slowly. "Christmas coffee." The room went silent. I remembered her words that morning. A secret ingredient. My son looked at the table, at the empty cup, then at me. "Dad," he said carefully, "did you drink your coffee?" I swallowed. My mouth felt dry. "No," I said, "I didn't." His eyes widened. "Why not?" Before I could answer, she spoke again. "He never drinks what I make," she said, her voice sharp now, even through the weakness. "Always suspicious. Always watching." "That's not true," my son said. She laughed again, louder this time, then suddenly stopped, holding her stomach. Her face twisted in pain. I was tired of him, she said. Tired of him watching me. Tired of him being here. My grandson covered his ears. My son took a step back. What are you saying? He asked. Her voice became quiet. I just wanted peace. The words hit me harder than anything else. I remembered every locked door, every plate pushed away, every cold look. It all came together like pieces of a broken picture. My son shook his head. You're not making sense, he said. You love my father. She looked at him with tired eyes. I pretended, she said. The room felt like it was shrinking. I finally stood up. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself forward. Enough, I said softly. They both looked at me. I have stayed quiet for a long time, I continued. I stayed because this was my son's home. Because of that child. I nodded toward my grandson. But I am not blind. She stared at me, her lips shaking. You put something in that coffee, I said. Not loudly, not angrily. Just the truth. My son turned pale. Is that true? He asked her. She did not answer. Her silence was louder than any scream. No one spoke for a long time. The room felt frozen, like time itself was holding its breath. My son stood between the couch and the table, his hands hanging at his sides. His wife lay there, eyes half open, chest rising and falling in uneven beats. The blinking Christmas lights threw red and green shadows across her face, making her look like someone I did not know. Finally, my son moved. He reached for his phone with shaking hands. I'm calling for help, he said. She grabbed his wrist. Don't, she whispered. Her grip was weak, but the fear in her eyes was strong. If you call, everything will come out. My son pulled his hand back slowly. What do you mean? He asked. She turned her head away. You don't want to know, she said. That was when something inside my son broke. I do want to know, he said, his voice low and firm. Because right now, I don't recognize the woman I married. She closed her eyes. Tears slipped down the sides of her face. For the first time, she looked small, not powerful, not in control. I never planned for today, she said quietly. It was supposed to be slow. My grandson gasped. I felt his fingers tighten around my sleeve. Slow? My son repeated. She opened her eyes again and looked at him. He was old, she said, nodding toward me. Weak. Everyone would believe it was natural. The words cut deep. My son staggered back as if someone had hit him. You're talking about my father, he said. She nodded. I felt a strange calm wash over me. Fear left. Shock left. Only truth remained. I warned you, she said, her voice rising. I told you he made me uncomfortable. He watched me. He judged me. That's a lie, my son shouted. He barely speaks. She laughed bitterly. Exactly. He sees everything. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. My son froze. Did you call? He asked me. I nodded. Yes, I said. I did. She tried to sit up again, panic filling her face. You can't, she said. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing, I replied. I'm protecting myself and that child. The front doorbell rang. The sound echoed through the house like a hammer striking glass. My grandson jumped. My son looked from the door to his wife, then back again. I'll handle it, I said. When I opened the door, two people stood there, calm, serious, ready. The warm Christmas air rushed in behind them. Inside, everything changed. They moved quickly but gently. Questions were asked. The house filled with quiet voices and careful steps. My daughter-in-law was lifted onto a stretcher. She cried then, not from pain, but from fear. As they carried her out, she looked at me. This isn't over, she whispered. I leaned closer so only she could hear me. It is, I said. My son followed them outside, his face empty. Snow began to fall softly, landing on the blinking lights around the doorway. Christmas morning had turned cold. When he came back inside, he did not sit down. He walked to the table and stared at the 2 coffee cups. I saw you switch them, he said quietly. I turned toward him. Then you know, I replied. He nodded slowly. I didn't want to believe it, even when things felt wrong, even when you told me. He ran his hands through his hair. She's been keeping records, he added suddenly. I frowned. Records. Notes, schedules, medicines. He swallowed hard. I found them last month, but didn't understand. That was the twist that made my chest tighten. She planned this, he said, for a long time. The room felt darker. My grandson sat alone on the floor, staring at the tree. I went to him and knelt down. Grandpa, he asked, is Mom bad? I took a deep breath. She made bad choices, I said. That doesn't make you bad. He nodded slowly, trusting me. Behind us, my son sat down heavily, his head in his hands. The weight of the truth had finally crushed him. Outside, the sirens faded away. Inside the house, the silence returned. Thick, heavy, and full of things that could never be undone. The silence did not leave after they took her away. It stayed. It sat in every corner of the house, heavy and watching, like it was waiting for someone else to speak first. The Christmas lights still blinked, cheerful and careless, and that made everything worse. My son sat at the table, staring at nothing. His coffee cup was still there, empty, turned slightly on its side. Mine sat across from it, untouched, cold now. Neither of us moved. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Time felt broken. I keep hearing her voice, my son said at last. His words were slow, like they hurt to come out. Every time she smiled, every time she said she cared. He looked at me then. His eyes were red, not angry, not accusing, just afraid. How long did you know? He asked. I thought carefully. I didn't know, I said. I felt. For a long time. He nodded like that answer made sense. I failed you, he said suddenly. I failed both of you. I stood and placed my hand on his shoulder. He flinched at first, then relaxed. You were trusting, I said. That is not failure. Across the room, my grandson sat very still. Too still for a child. He had lined up his toys under the tree and was staring at them like they might explain everything. I walked over and knelt beside him. Grandpa, he asked quietly, are you going to die? The question cut through me sharper than any knife. No, I said firmly. I'm right here. But she wanted you to, he said. I did not lie to him. Yes, I said softly. She did. He swallowed. Why? I looked at the tree, at the gifts, at the life we pretended was normal. Because fear makes people do terrible things, I said, and sometimes they hide it behind smiles. He leaned into me and held on tight. Behind us, something crashed. My son had stood up too fast. A chair lay on its side. He was breathing hard, his fists clenched. She planned it, he said again, louder now, like saying it might change the truth. She measured it, wrote it down, watched the clock. His voice broke. And I slept beside her. The tension in the room grew thicker. Not loud, not violent. Just unbearable. A knock came at the door. All 3 of us froze. My heart jumped. My son looked at me, panic flashing in his eyes. For a brief, terrible moment, none of us moved. Another knock, slow, firm. I'll get it, I said. When I opened the door, the cold air rushed in again. A man stood there, serious and calm, holding a small notebook. We have a few more questions, he said. My son stepped forward. "I'll answer," he said quickly. As they spoke quietly at the doorway, I looked back into the house. The coffee cups were still there. 2 cups, same size, same color. One empty, one full. If I had not switched them, if she had not looked away, if Christmas morning had gone on like any other. My legs felt weak. The man left after a few minutes. The door closed softly behind him. That was when my son said something that made my blood run cold. "She asked about you," he said. I looked up. "When?" "At the hospital," he replied, "before they took her in." I waited. "She wanted to know if you drank the coffee." The room felt smaller again. The tension returned, sharper than before. I looked at the cup in my hands, and for the first time that morning, I truly understood how close death had come, and how Christmas would never, ever be the same again. That Christmas taught us a hard truth. Evil does not always shout. It sometimes smiles. I stayed alive because I listened to my instincts. My son learned to see clearly. And my grandson learned this lesson early. Love must never come with fear. Thank you for watching this story until the end. If it touched you or made you think, please like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Your support helps the channel grow, and your voice matters. See you in the next story.